Hello, everyone. We are back with a new episode. And what I want to talk about today is the overall theme of trusting the process. So I think on the spiritual path and really on any path, there's a really deep layer of trust that you have to have because things are always coming together in so many different ways and so much more than what we can possibly conceive in the moment. And so there's a level of surrender. I think surrender as a theme for the courageous is major because you have to be able to surrender what you think something should be, or even what you think something is, or the expectations or judgments you have over your life or yourself, in order to really, really meet reality and meet your life where it is. So when we think about trusting the process, what I have found for my journey is definitely that, it sort of feels like on the spiritual path. And as you grow and evolve and develop as a person, you're like always reaching towards such greatness. There's almost, I know for me and many others that I've worked with and talked to about this, there's always this kind of like feeling that you're right on the peak of something super major. And I think part of that is learning that the super major thing is the journey itself. And that is not to say by any means that you won't have absolutely major moments and peak experiences in your life. But it is also true that sometimes the most minimal, like not even shared experiences, something you'd never talk about, feel so major, and they shift you in such a fundamental way that we think that the peak experience is going to be this big major Beyonce moment, when in fact it's really like the day-to-day just miracles that are always laid out on your path, all the arrows that point you towards your direction. And so what happens over time as you begin to trust the path and the journey more is you are more grounded and available to the journey exactly as it is. And I think we'll always hold this kind of like love for the future. There's like a part of the spiritual path that is very visionary because you recognize that there is so much more goodness to come. And as you evolve and develop yourself as a human being and a spirit, you unveil so many amazing things in your life and in your reality that you have so much to look forward to. And it feels very exciting most of the time. And also, as we know, on the spiritual path and in life, the journey is really the point. The journey is really the point. And so it's this very nice balance and dance between giving yourself things to look forward to and being excited for what's to come, and allowing these major shifts and changes to happen, be it just a small thing that happened in a meditation, or, a major move that you've made in your life that feels like sort of a materialization of the work that you've put in. Like there's this whole spectrum of shifts and moves that are happening both internally and externally all the time on the path. And that to me is what makes the journey so much of the point. Because even if we hold a vision for our future selves, the person we are when we start the journey towards that vision, and then the person we are if and when we ever arrive, because arriving is sort of subjective because in some ways we don't. But to get there is like where the magic happens, right? It's like we create the vision and then we become the person who can fulfill the vision. And that's where the money is ultimately. That's where like all of the work happens, all the fun happens, all the magic happens, is from the realization of the vision to the fulfillment of it. And in the interim, you realize that you yourself in many ways are the vision. You're becoming the vision. It's not something outside of you. That the whole spiritual path, so much of self-mastery is about who you become. It's you becoming the one who can bring influence and impact to the world or to your communities or to your family or to your life in whatever way that looks for you. And so when we soften this attachment to either A, like the outcome or where we think we're headed, or B, what something is in our lives right now, be it a relationship or a person or even an event or something that has taken place, it really allows us to be more present with things just exactly as they are. And it really allows us to meet reality and meet the present moment right where it's at, instead of our expectations being in the way of a miracle being a miracle just because it doesn't look like we thought that the miracle should look. Because in reality, everything is a miracle. Like that sounds so kind of cheesy, but if you give yourself the permission to see it like that, it's so true. You know, even the hardships, even the changes, even the uncertainty, even the fear, even the things that challenge us the most, in some way, it is like a miracle on our path, because it's giving us an opportunity that no other experience could have given us to become who we're here to become, and to become simply more of ourselves. And what has brought this theme up for me actually is I had been looking at getting a new car, and I was going to sell my car and get a new one. I had the new one picked out. And while all of this is happening, it's kind of happening simultaneous to the fact that I'm considering leaving Austin. I've been here for like a year and a half, and it's like cool, but I've been feeling kind of a call to maybe make some changes. I'm also one who just makes major changes all the time. It's not uncommon for me to move states or, you know, countries pretty quickly. So it's been present for me to possibly leave Austin. And so I have these kind of two things happening simultaneous to one another. And this week I ended up selling my car with the car in mind that I wanted to purchase. And so I sell my car. I'm like ready to go. I have my new one picked out. And I always give myself usually like a day or two once I make a major decision to kind of, or if I'm preparing to make a major decision, to kind of sit with the decision before I give it a full yes. So I sold my car. This was like Tuesday. I come home and, you know, in my mind, I'm like gearing up to get a new one. And immediately, intuitively, in kind of a meditative space, the intuition was like, yeah, it's a no on the new car. In fact, you're leaving Austin. So the whole reason I sold my car was to kind of free me from being here and to free me from any location ultimately, so I can become location independent. And I knew that was a theme that was starting to kind of weave in, at least for, you know, temporarily, or at least to get me out of Austin if this is not, you know, what's serving my highest good and my highest excitement at this time. But it didn't, in no way did I expect to sell my car and think that I was going to be moving as a result of that. So I say all this to say, you know, these major things happen, right? And so in my mind, it's like, this is happening because so that this can happen. And then within, you know, 6 hours, I got totally checked on that. And that's, I think, another part of the path, is understanding that there's like this co-creation happening, right? And you're living out the design is living itself out through you, but in many ways, you're not the one in charge. And so even when you think that this car being sold is happening so that obviously I can get a new one, allow there to be nuance and allow yourself to be wrong in that, right? Because the mind can only conceive what it's available to. And so to me, you know, it's like the easy math is you sell one and you get another, especially if I'm living somewhere like Austin, you pretty much need a car. And so my mind was only available to that possibility, albeit even that I knew there was a possibility that I would leave Austin soon. And once I sat into the design and out of what I thought things should be, or how I thought things were supposed to be going at this point, it was the answer was clear. The path, the arrow was so clear. I couldn't even pretend to even look at the new car again, because it was so obvious what I needed to do, which was align myself to leave. So, and that's just one obvious example of like so many life experiences wherein we think this is happening and this is it, right? We're always kind of looking for like that this is it thing, that Beyonce moment thing that's going to give us whatever we think we want. If it's like, you know, notoriety or influence or being seen or being understood or heard or whatever it is, right? And we'll have so many things, right? There will be so many opportunities that happen that it feels so good, and and we can allow them to be super major opportunities, experiences, changes, whatever it is in our lives. And it doesn't take away from the power of what's happening. But if we allow it to be, this is it for right now, you know, then it relieves some of the expectations we have, because we're not setting ourselves up for disappointment in the future if what we thought was it wasn't actually it. I can even say the same, and I know a lot of people who work in the metaphysical space and the spiritual space for their career, that, you know, even in that space, your work is always shifting and changing, especially as you shift and change, right? Because your gifts are expanding and growing, and you're kind of also aligned with and attuned to the collective in a way that you're energetically reading what the collective is asking from you for your work and what they need from your voice and your spirit, so that those shifts and changes are kind of constantly happening, even subconsciously. So there's a lot of shifting and changing. I know for me, you know, whenever I thought in my career, like, this is it, it was it maybe for a while, and then over time things shifted and changed. And so I've had to really practice relieving myself of being identified with what I think my career should look like, or even the title of what I consider myself. Like overall, I consider myself like an energy worker or healer. That's like as far as I have kind of gotten. And that always embodies in various different ways. This is being one of them, right? Like I've also been a teacher for a very long time. So they all come together in different ways. And so I've had to really practice letting go of what I think I identify with, because I would have been very limited if I found something that I put on the pedestal of how I identify myself. And so I think over time, all of these things come together to teach you how to really relieve yourself even of the expectations of your identity, right? Because we do want to be obviously very careful, in particular, and conscious about what we identify with, especially if it's our past or, our traumas or our struggles. Like it's very powerful to own what has happened to you, own your experiences, but there's a fine line between owning your experiences and identifying yourself with them, because then that becomes a part of who you are. So how does the healing happen if on some way your identity is wrapped around this experience, right? So again, all things in their place, all things in their time. And the more we allow things to shift and change, and we allow ourselves to be very present with the journey, meet reality where it is, then there's a freedom there. There's a freedom to really enjoy the whole process, enjoy the spiritual journey as it's just, divine nature wrapped around you, instead of the mind focusing on one particular thing needing to be a particular way and missing all the magic. I think that happens so much. And this is why being stuck in intellect all the time is dangerous, because you really do miss all the magic, right? Like the magic can sort of be understood with the mind, but it's really an experience. It is experiential. And to live out your spiritual and divine truths is very much the experience of that. And so if you're stuck in your mind all the time and you're creating all your lists and plans and, expectations, then you don't allow yourself, you don't give yourself the space to also integrate the entire design as it's already playing out through you and with you and for you. The mind can get in the way of that at times. So as I'm talking about this, maybe there's something that's kind of coming up for you, or maybe you resonate with this. And again, I never want to steal anyone's joy. Like joy is the highest experience. So it's never to say like, don't let something be absolutely it and feel the full massive joy around that. But it's just the attachment piece. It's the attachment piece of needing it to be it forever. And instead you just bring out that full joy. In fact, the recognition that this might be a temporary joy sometimes can facilitate even more joy, because you want to like soak it all in instead of like taking it for granted, or thinking it's going to be something that lives forever in your field or in your experience. So let it expand you, let it open up the joy, funnels in your experience, in your spirit. Like let it open you to more, and then trust that it will remain or not, whether it's meant to remain or not. So all of this circles back to just the major theme of trusting the process, trusting the unfolding, trusting your life, and really, really, truly letting the journey be the point, so that we're not always living so far in the future that we think we're heading somewhere in particular, that we've missed the whole point, which is the person we're becoming as we head in that direction. And that sometimes where we think we're going, as big as a dream you might have, is only as big as the mind can conceive. And there's so many bigger dreams. God's dreams are much bigger than what your mind can conceive. The divine dream, the divine design is so much bigger than what your mind can conceive, that you can only meet reality in your life and your path according to what the mind can understand it as. And so there's a nuance there to realize, like, I'm understanding this in this way, I'm translating this message in this way, but I also know that there's probably more context and texture to it that I can't even conceive in this moment, maybe until later on down the line when it will actually make sense, right? Because sometimes often on our path, we're picking up this breadcrumb, we put them in our back pocket. And it's not until much later that you even pull it out and you're like, that's what this was for, right? Like, I'm sure some of you know what I'm talking about. You have these like major aha moments where someone said something or something happened, years ago that it kind of pinged you to put in your pocket, but you like didn't have any context for it yet. And then a decade later, it's like, you have a massive major like aha moment of understanding why it happened and how that those words or that information or that experience was exactly what fed you in that moment, years later. So we're always gathering the information for our path and for our spirit, for ourselves, to continue to become more of who we are in often a non-linear way. It's not like today we get this message and tomorrow we apply it. It's like today we get this message and chip shaped it. You can go on the whole path. And then much later, maybe it applies, or maybe you just meant to grab it for somebody else to give to them later. Like, that's how amazing and incredible the journey is, and how fun it is to just be on it. Just let yourself be on the journey without feeling the pressure of needing to be someone in particular. The best person you're going to be on this journey is yourself. So by all means, give yourself that grace. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thanks for tuning in. As always, please let me know if you have any comments, feedback, if this resonates, and or if you have any topic requests for future videos. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.